They came to this World Cup to crown the old kings. Messi chasing one final miracle, Ronaldo playing his last act, Mbappé waiting for his throne. And instead, the story of the 2026 World Cup has been stolen by a 25-year-old playing in the very first World Cup of his life, a striker from Norway, who has spent the last month erasing records set by legends, decades before he was born. This is the story of Erling Haaland's record-breaking tournament, and it may be the single most staggering individual run this competition has seen in a generation. Start with the number that broke the internet. 7 goals in 4 matches in his debut World Cup. Not across a career, not across 3 tournaments, 4 games. And here is the record that leaves people speechless. In their own debut World Cups, 3 of the greatest players in history combined for 6 goals. Lionel Messi scored 1, Cristiano Ronaldo scored 1, Kylian Mbappé scored 4. Add them together and you get 6. Haaland has 7. One man, in one tournament, has outscored 3 icons at the same stage of their careers, combined. That's not a hot streak. That's a rewriting of what was thought possible on this stage, and the way he's doing it is almost frightening in its efficiency. Haaland has taken just 18 shots in this entire World Cup and scored 7 times, a conversion rate close to 40%. That is the deadliest finishing in a single World Cup among players with 15 or more shots since Gary Lineker back in 1986. He doesn't dominate the ball. He doesn't need 40 touches. He waits, he lurks, and the moment a chance appears, it's in the net. His 7 goals in a debut World Cup match a mark not seen since Poland's Grzegorz Lato in 1974. And this is where it stops being about talent and starts being about history. But the records that matter most are the ones written in the biggest moments. Because Haaland hasn't padded his numbers against minnows. He has scored 4 match-winning goals in this tournament, the strikes that directly decide who advances and who goes home. Only 2 players in the entire history of the World Cup have ever scored more match winners in a single edition. He has already produced 3 separate multi-goal games in one tournament, which puts him level with some of the most prolific scorers ever across a single World Cup. When the pressure is at its absolute peak, when an entire nation is holding its breath, Haaland is the man who delivers. To understand how far this run has come, you have to go back to where it started. In qualifying, Haaland was already a machine. 16 goals as Norway won all 8 of their matches, dismantling 4-time champions Italy, and finishing as the top scorer of the qualifying group stage. Then came the tournament itself, and the doubts. Norway beat Iraq and Senegal, then were battered 4-1 by France. The critics circled. Maybe this was Haaland's ceiling. Maybe he'd be another club superstar who shrinks on the international stage. Then the knockouts arrived, and everything the world thought it knew was torn up. In their entire history, Norway had never won a single World Cup knockout match. Against Ivory Coast, Haaland ended that curse himself with a late winner, his 5th goal of the tournament. And then came Brazil, 5-time world champions, the most successful nation the sport has ever produced. For most of that match, Haaland was invisible, starved of the ball, barely a factor. At the second half water break, his coach pulled him close and told him to empty the tank and go for it. What followed was pure theater. Haaland scored in the 79th minute, a towering header, then hammered a low strike into the corner in the 90th to seal it. Norway 2, Brazil 1. It sent the record 5-time champions crashing out at their earliest exit since 1990, and it pushed Neymar into international retirement in tears. And it carried a chilling little detail. Norway are now the only nation on the planet that Brazil has faced and never once beaten. Of every team in the world, the one ghost the Brazilians cannot escape is Haaland's Norway. His brace that night took him to 7 goals for the tournament and dragged his country into its first ever World Cup quarterfinal. What makes the run even more remarkable is that Haaland has now scored in all 4 of his World Cup appearances. If he finds the net once more against England, he'll join Germany's Gerd Müller as the last European player to score in each of his first 5 World Cup matches, a mark standing since 1970. Zoom out even further, and it gets sillier. Haaland has scored in each of his last 14 competitive outings for Norway, racking up 27 goals in that run. He is already, by a distance, the most prolific World Cup scorer his country has ever produced. Every time he steps onto the pitch, another record seems to fall. The men who share his profession have run out of words. England's own captain, Harry Kane, one of the deadliest strikers alive, called Haaland a machine, a beast, a player whose goal-scoring record simply speaks for itself. One of England's most respected voices declared flatly that Haaland will go down as the greatest goal scorer football has ever seen. This is the reaction of the people who actually have to face him, not fans on the internet. And it captures the strange truth of this tournament. Haaland has forced the entire sport to talk about a Norwegian in a conversation that was supposed to belong to Messi, Ronaldo, and Mbappé. And yet, incredibly, he still isn't top of the Golden Boot race. That's how ruthless this World Cup has been. Messi and Mbappé have both scored 8, sitting one ahead of Haaland 7, with Kane just behind on 6. 4 of the greatest finishers on earth, separated by 2 goals, heading into the business end of the tournament. But there's a difference. Messi and Mbappé are seasoned World Cup veterans. Haaland is doing this on his first ever attempt. For a nation of just 5 million people, that hadn't even qualified in 28 years. The others are chasing a trophy they've touched before. Haaland is discovering in real time that he might belong at the very top of it. Now comes the wall. Haaland's record-breaking run has carried Norway all the way to a quarterfinal against England in Miami, with a place in the semifinals on the line. Harry Kane on one side, 14 career World Cup goals, 6 in this tournament, a striker built for these nights. Erling Haaland on the other, 7 goals, a fistful of shattered records, and a nation that suddenly believes anything is possible. 2 number 9s, 2 different weapons, 1 ticket to the last 4. And England's defense, which has looked shaky all tournament, now has to solve the one problem nobody in world football has managed to solve. Haaland, ever the showman, has tried to lower the temperature, calling Norway's chances of winning the whole thing really low, and insisting all the pressure sits on England. Nobody buys the calm act anymore, because every single time this World Cup has tried to write him off, he has answered with a goal. He said something after the Brazil win that should terrify everyone still left in this competition, that he has peaked several times during this tournament, but every time there is a new peak waiting. Think about what that means. A player rewriting the history of the World Cup, outscoring the combined debut tournaments of Messi, Ronaldo, and Mbappé, breaking marks that have stood since the 1970s and 1980s. And he says he still hasn't hit his ceiling. The 2026 World Cup was supposed to be a farewell tour for the sport's old kings. Instead, it may be remembered as the tournament a new one announced himself, one impossible record at a time. And with a quarterfinal now in front of him, the most dangerous thought of all is the simplest one. Erling Haaland isn't finished yet.